Hi, guys. Welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's September 16th, 2023. It's our early morning edition as Eli is calling the St. Mary's game this afternoon. So thanks for joining us. And again, thanks for all the well wishes for Steve because it's making a difference and I certainly do appreciate it. And my heartfelt thanks go out to everybody. Just can't thank you enough. So there's a lot of stuff. It's been a busy week in sports. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Start off with our monologue this week, which of course is sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. Thank you, Guy, for your continued loyal support of the show. Appreciate it. So the monologue this week, it's tennis because we just watched the U.S. Open and we watched some pretty cool stuff. We keep talking about, who's the greatest male tennis player of all time. And, the conversation just keeps going. It was back and forth with Federer and Nadal and Novak Djokovic. And there's really only one guy still standing. I'm not sure. I think Nadal may make a comeback or something, but this guy is an absolute robot. He's a machine. He won his 24th Grand Slam, tying Margaret Court for most all time. But just to watch that match, and it was on a busy Sunday, so thank goodness for remote controls because we were watching all of it. You could see in the beginning he looked like he was hurt, either pulled a groin or some type of a muscle because you could see the way he was stretching, felt uncomfortable. And yet he still wins in straight sets against Medvedev, who, like I said, he's a former U.S. Open champ too, so he's no slouch. But he just went right through it. We all expected it to be a Novak Alcaraz final, and that didn't materialize. So listen, he is 36 years old, so at some point this is going to come to a close. But right now, I don't see any signs of him letting up. He seems so determined. And, Alcaraz could be the next Novak for the next 20 years. We're going to have to wait and see. He's still young, only 20, 21 years old. So he's going to get his time. But right now, Novak Djokovic is just absolutely the best tennis player in the world. And, it seems like he's been 36 years old for 3 years now. So I don't know how that is. But congratulations to him. And like I said, he is some kind of machine. And on the women's side, we have Coco Gauff, who won her first U.S. Open, first Grand Slam event, becomes the youngest since Serena Williams to win it. And listen, this is wide open on the women's side. You're not seeing, the competition you are on the men's side with the women's, and Coco Gauff could seize this opportunity. But we got to be careful because we saw a couple of years ago, Leylah Fernandez came out of nowhere and won the U.S. Open, and she was going to be the next, queen of tennis, and that didn't materialize. Naomi Osaka, same kind of thing. But this kid seems very, very focused, and she has a very lot of support from the tennis world, and Chris Everett and all these guys. They think she is something special. So congratulations to her on winning her first Grand Slam title. And that kind of wraps up the tennis season. The Grand Slams are all done. So Mike Garvey from Naples, I know that bums you out, but we'll get more. We'll get it. See, we'll be talking about Novak Djokovic again next year because that's how dominant. And we'll see how Coco Gauff handles the limelight now that she's big star on the tennis circuit.
I have to agree 100%, and that was a very good monologue, by the way. And yeah, I agree. Novak Djokovic played an excellent game. I didn't pick him to win, but he was good. He played well, and I was very impressed. Coco Gauff, of course, that was a great run for her. Congratulations. That was a great game overall and a great match. And that was a great U.S. Open final, and I can't wait for the next one coming up in the future. And just to bring that out there, Coco Gauff's match had 1.3 more million views than Djokovic's match. Just to prove to you how much women's sports is improving. Now, I'm aware football was on the time the men's match was on.
There you go. That's exactly why.
I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that 100%. College basketball, college football was also going on at the same time too. So just want to throw that out there as well. But just to show you that women's sports are improving, regardless of football was on or not.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely
Regardless
the
or not.
reason that was opening weekend of football, and the U.S. Open always coincides with the first weekend of football. So,
Regardless, good for Coco Gauff and the game and for the women's
oh, no
sports.
question.
And they're definitely proving much more. And to get over 3 million views is very impressive. So
Oh,
kudos.
no question about it. No question. So the U.S. Open was another smashing success, and like I said, on the men's side, I guess the surprise was Ben Shelton, right? Kind of came out of nowhere, and we don't know whether or not that was a one-time thing but there is a lot of good young talent in tennis, and
Yeah.
it was a great U.S. Open.
And
Great U.S.
unfortunately for those who have Spectrum, they finally made an agreement with Disney, but that came
They
on
did.
Monday, right after the US Open. So if you were a fan of US Open and you had Spectrum, I really felt bad for you, but you got Monday Night Football. And no surprise that they were able to get it done right before the biggest game of the year. So
Yeah,
kudos
yeah.
for
That's
those who got ESPN back and all those ABC and Disney channels, because obviously
yeah.
that's important.
That's right. You got it. Hey, so listen, of course, we're going to get into the National Football League, but let's touch base real quick, and let's start with some college football.
All right.
Because again, right, we talked about this, actually the monologue last week was about Coach
College
Primetime
football.
and what Colorado has done. And they end up beating Nebraska. So Nebraska's still feeling the hangover from the Scott Frost era, I guess. But you got to give this Colorado. They came out of nowhere, and Deion Sanders' son is going to actually probably join the Heisman Trophy discussion going forward. He's playing that well, and this is quite a surprise from going to Jackson State to Colorado and making such an impact. And listen, let's not get ahead of ourselves, because there's still a long way to go in the regular season. And they play in Colorado State today, which is the big rivalry game for them. But I think they could get by them. I don't think they're going to get blown out. I think the rivalry is that competitive. I'm kind of hoping Colorado State gives them a game, but it really is quite a story in college football. And
absolutely,
not only that, right, Eli? I mean, you look at Alabama, right, losing to Texas last week, and
the hype is real for sure, and we might see an upset from today's Colorado game. So again, the hype is real. It's gonna be a fun game, and college football is beginning to grow better and better each and every year.
Yeah, and it's kind of unusual, because when we're talking about the top 10 and the teams, you have Florida State back in the mix. They haven't been relevant for several years, right? Alabama now drops to 10, which is unusual for a Nick Saban type team. They're going to make a change of quarterback. They're going to start Tyler Buchner today, former Notre Dame quarterback, replacing Jalen Milroe. So he's gonna shake things up, and that's what Nick Saban does. But you also have Clemson and Dabo Swinney. They're not the team we expected them to be. So this is a wide open. This is a great year for Colorado to come in and make a play for this, because college football is wide open. But it's been great to see. I just love college football on a Saturday afternoon, and like I said, a lot of surprises so far. A lot of surprises.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. So with college football, let's move on to some of the big discussions. We'll stick with football. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, but let's start with the NFL. And for full disclosure, both Eli and I had picked the Giants and we picked the Bills, and neither one of them came through. And not only did the Giants not come through, it was an absolute embarrassment. And
I agree.
Don't think Brian Daboll is going to sit pat with this. And I think we all saw, how vulnerable our offensive line is right now, and that's not good for Daniel Jones. I mean, thank goodness that he's a mobile quarterback, but He's got a great arm and he can drop back and pass. But if they don't give him time, this is going to be a long season for the Giants. My
Well,
early season.
here's my thoughts with the New York Giants. That was a horrible game last week, and it wasn't the only upset. Seahawks played in a horrible game, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. There was multiple upsets, including Cincinnati, Seattle, but we'll get to that later. Again, the New York Giants played horrible. The fact that they couldn't kick a field goal was a disgrace, and if they don't win tomorrow versus the Arizona Cardinals, who are expected to have not one win, if not less than 3, then that goes to show that should eliminate the Giants from any competition going forward, because you just lost to a team which you should have an easy win to. But yet again, they did put some struggle. I'm aware of what Arizona did last week. They made it a close game with the Commanders only losing by 4 points. So you got to keep that in mind. If the Giants do lose, this is going to be a big mess in New York after coming back from a amazing playoff run to now potentially playing and losing to an Arizona Cardinals team, which hope that won't happen. So you better hope. If you're a Giants fan, you got to hope that you got to win tomorrow, because if you don't win, there's something wrong. Something is
That's
wrong.
right. That's right. And we particular, you hate to single certain individuals out in a team game, but the special teams was no good. The offensive line and in particular the right tackle, Evan Neal, is just not. Yeah, I mean, he was just outmanned by Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence and everybody.
When it comes to the rain, because I know rain was a factor in that game, I would say it would be acceptable if the Dallas Cowboys didn't put up that many points as they did. But the fact that they were able to put up 40 points in the rain just goes to show you that there is something wrong. That the fact that you could not score that many points was unbelievably ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that really does show a lot. The fact that they were able to get up so many points onto that board. And for the Dallas Cowboys, they're a good team at this point. Now, it was a surprise, and we'll see how they play out. Again, they have a big matchup tomorrow with the New York Jets. We'll get to the Jets in a little bit, but still.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was very impressed with the Cowboys, but I would say it's acceptable during the rain if the Cowboys did not put up that many points, but it's unacceptable because they did put up 40.
Oh, I know. That was really just a bad look for the Giants. Hopefully they got that out, because like you brought up, Eli, week 1 is always kind of full of these kind of surprises, because a lot of the veterans don't play much in the preseason and stuff, so it takes time to gel. So we look at Joe Burrow and the kind of game that he had. I mean, he didn't play at all during the preseason. No. And so that showed up a little bit, right?
Yes, it did. And it really did for Joe Burrow, because they only got I believe the field goal was the final for Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken. I'll just double check. But yeah, field goal, 24-3 was the final for Cincinnati. And the fact that he couldn't run the ball, that was a joke. And I had him in fantasy football, which I was just a little bit mad about, because I did not get fantasy points for him, because that was another joke game. But for when it comes to Joe Burrow, I felt that he fell into that money trap. And I can't even say the weather was an issue, because they were able to put up 24 points, the Browns. So there is, when it comes to the rain, it's acceptable when it's a low-scoring game, but it's unacceptable when it's a blowout game, like what Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns did in that last Sunday's game. And of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Please feel free to comment on any platforms you're watching.
Yeah, and send us an email at sportswithmanoandmano@gmail.com, or post comments on Facebook and Instagram, whatever you guys think, because and I was talking to my grandson the other night, who's the biggest Patrick Mahomes fan on the planet. Right. And he was disappointed that they ended up losing their first game, but it certainly wasn't due to Patrick Mahomes. He did everything
absolutely not. He did
to do, right?
Right.
Darius Tony dropped 5 passes at least.
Right. And now this Lions team coming up, and I'm going to go to the Lions real quick before I get back to the Chiefs. The Lions have a very big game coming up. They're going to play home versus the Seattle Seahawks team, which, remember, Seattle played another horrible game after losing to the Rams without Cooper Kupp. That was unbelievably crazy. I was watching that game and I was going nuts because of how bad that game was. And I hope that Seattle can pull the upset, and I hope the hype is real, and that the hype fails back on the Lions and gives the Seahawks their first win to keep the Seahawks still alive. But this is going to be an exciting game tomorrow. Fortunately, will not be on television if you're in the New York area, unfortunately, because of Fox only has the 1 game coverage which is the Giants at 4 o'clock. But back to my point, the Lions are playing a very good season. The hype is real. We'll see how it goes for them. When it comes to the Chiefs, Travis Kelce is expected to come back for tomorrow's game. So we'll see if that does help this team out a lot. I think that this team, they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think they're going to win this week, though. I think the Jaguars are the better team when it comes to those matters. So I do see that we may see what we saw last week in week 1 versus the Lions happen again to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And remember, the Jacksonville Jaguars played a very close game during that divisional rounds game last year.
They did. So there were also a couple other notable things to mention about when you look at the 49ers looked every bit as good as we kind of thought they could be, right?
And there was no surprise there. The 49ers played the way they usually play. And for Steelers, they played another day in another game in another world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still like, and I still think Kenny Pickett's going to be a good quarterback. And I think Mike Tomlin's a great coach.
I think they are a good team. But however, when you play that game against the 49ers, you're expected to lose when you have a quarterback like that. And I mean, there was no surprise there, but we'll see how it plays out.
Well, the other couple of things that, the 49ers looked as good. I think one of the surprise teams for me was Green Bay and the job that Jordan Love did. And I'm delighted with him finally getting the opportunity, getting rid of this out of the shadow of Aaron Rodgers, and it's his team now. And they came out and won their first game. I thought that was certainly notable. And another one, because this is a guy that I've kind of been a little rough on, not because I don't like him. I like him a lot. I like Tua a lot. And in Miami, I don't know that they have all the tools and, whether he could stay healthy or not, but he had the game of his life. And that was a big surprise to me because I don't put him up there in the elite, the Burrows, the Allens, the Herberts, the Rodgers, and all those categories. But he showed me something, and I hope that he's healthy. And I'm a Tua fan. I just didn't know that. I didn't think he has the NFL caliber arm. But when you guys got guys like Tyreek Hill running down the field, the fastest guy in the league, that helps you a lot,
Well, I'm going to get to the Packers game first before I move along. The Packers really played an amazing game last week. And now I could say to myself, have faith in this Packers team now without Aaron Rodgers, because the Packers have an excellent chance of making the playoffs and moving forward. And they are a team to be in the NFC, regardless of what people say. And their division is going to be a rough division. So Packers played an excellent game. Bears really put up a disappointing game last week, considering the fact that Jordan Love was the quarterback for the Packers. Moving on right away to the Dolphins game. The Dolphins game was one of by far the best game of the week, for sure. The Dolphins played an exciting game. They played like nobody was watching. It was super amazing. And the Dolphins, they say Tua, whatever. The point is Tua played a great game. It was a lot of fun. The Chargers, they played well. They showed what they could. However, Justin Herbert is going to be in a little bit of hey, what's going on here? And they did lose. One player is going to be out from the Chargers. I forgot to write his name down, but he will be out for this week's Chargers game this upcoming Sunday. They have the Titans at 1:00 on CBS this coming tomorrow. So
it's not Eckler out, right?
Yes, he is Eckler. I believe Eckler was out.
Is it? Okay. All right.
Yes, I believe that was the name. But I'll double check.
This thing with the San Diego or Los Angeles Chargers, right? They're paying Herbert a ton of money, puts up the big numbers, but we've seen this for 20 years with them, right? Even going way, way back to Dan Fouts, they put up incredible numbers, but they never won anything. And they did the same thing with Phillip Rivers being the quarterback for many years and put up big numbers, probably going to the Hall of Fame, but they didn't win anything. So you got to keep an eye out on this. Is this a pattern for the Chargers franchise? And Herbert's putting up record numbers in his first 4 years in the league, and he's got to get that franchise over the hump. That's a big ask for him.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a big test. And I did confirm that Eckler will be doubtful to play for tomorrow. And that is going to be a huge loss. And I know Jack, he changed his score prediction yesterday when we did our week 2 prediction show. So
Okay.
we'll see how it plays out. And again, they will have the Titans tomorrow, 1 p.m. on CBS.
Okay. Wait, what you mentioned something before. What did so I know the Giants and Jets are both playing at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Are you
Yes.
saying one of those games is not going to be broadcast in the New York area?
No. I'm saying the Fox games, because usually Fox has like a 2 games idea. So CBS has 2 games. The 4 o'clock window will be the Jets. The other game, I believe, will be the Bengals, if I'm not mistaken. And then for Fox, they will have no 1 o'clock game. Instead, they'll broadcast the Giants at 4 o'clock
Oh,
instead of the other
okay.
way around. That's what I was trying to
Okay.
say.
Yeah. And again, I hate when the Jets and the Giants play at the same time because you kind of want to watch both of those
Somebody
games.
else,
Yeah. Right.
right? And now,
So yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So listen, there was a big event what we saw, and it was kind of shocking. And this is,
Right.
this was the New York Jets third, fourth play of the game, and Aaron Rodgers goes down with a season-ending injury. All of the expectations. I mean, I could certainly tell you every Jet fan was more optimistic about this season than they've been in my lifetime.
Right.
And that was listen. Nobody likes to see this guy or
Right.
anybody get hurt in the NFL, but this was an unfortunate turn of events. And I kind of, when he stood up and then he sat back down on the field, I realized he tore his Achilles, and I knew that's exactly what it was. And because
Really.
I watched it, and there's a lot of debate about whether or not all the fields should be grass or turf or whatever. So, but you get these kind of injuries on grass as well. So I don't blame it
Right.
on the field. Just an unfortunate chain of events, and that took the wind out of the sails right away. But as you pointed out before, I mean, I'm still a believer in the Buffalo Bills. I still think they got an excellent football team. But I was surprised that they didn't seize the opportunity to win that game on the road with
Absolutely.
Zach Wilson in the game, and so that's a big surprise. And like I said, obviously a big loss for the Jets. He Rodgers with his ego will ultimately make a comeback, and he'll be there next year for the Jets. But you
Oh, I
always got
agree.
to wonder.
Right. And I'm
When
going
you
to go.
get
I'll get right into the Aaron Rodgers situation. Before I get into that, I'll make the joke of the day. Aaron Rodgers hosted more Jeopardy than he played with the New York Jets. That's the joke of the day.
okay,
Okay. Moving right along. Yeah, I thought Aaron Rodgers' situation was a complete mess, and I could see the reaction in the room down for that New York Jets team. Now, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, I honestly thought when he sat down, I'm like, okay, maybe he just wants to take a break. Maybe he's feeling something. But once he went in the tent, I said, okay, something is wrong. And then at that point, it's like you could see everybody on Twitter just going nuts. And then it's like, oh my God, he really did torn his
yeah,
Achilles. And it's
yeah,
another mess. He was on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. It was his first TV appearance since his torn his Achilles. He said on the show, give me your doubts and we'll see me soon. So, in other words, he's saying that he should be back hopefully towards the end of the season. And if the Jets do decide to make a playoff run, we could see Aaron Rodgers if that is the case. Now, Aaron Rodgers did say he will not be attending those games and he will not be able to put on the headset because of travel restrictions due to the torn Achilles injury. But he did say that he's going to try to do whatever he can from home and he will hope to be making some calls with the headset towards the near future. Remember, the Jets do have 5 more primetime games. Their week bye is on week 7, which I wanted to point out. A lot of people were wondering, should they get another quarterback? Should they get somebody? No, I don't think so. Keep Zach Wilson. It's too late in the game to purchase another quarterback. You already lost a lot already by taking Aaron Rodgers. And how much more are you going to risk to get this other player? And 7 days before before the next game is not a lot of time to train a new
yeah.
quarterback. So there is a lot there. Aaron Rodgers, we hope he has a speedy recovery. It is a mess in New York Jets territory. We had some hopeful news yesterday, but for the time being, it's going to be a while. And of course, it's going to be a little embarrassing that they do have another 5 more primetime games, 2 of them being on Prime Video, the other on
Yeah.
ESPN and NBC.
And listen, of course, the conversation immediately was, do you bring in a veteran quarterback? I mean, Robert Saleh saying the Jets are all in on Zach Wilson. We just don't know how that's going to pan out. So the usual
Right.
suspects. the usual suspects came up, right? The Carson Wentz's and
All
maybe
that.
even Joe Flacco, because he doesn't necessarily. This is a different system. This isn't the Mike LaFleur system. This is the Nathaniel Hackett system. So
Right.
Joe Flacco, although he's played with the Jets, his record was an abomination. Anyway, so I think they will ultimately bring in some guy, even if it's like maybe Andy Dalton or something like that, because you can't really count on Zach Wilson. I don't know anything about this kid, Tim Boyle, who's the
Right.
backup, but listen, I was all in on the Jets, and when they selected Zach Wilson, I really thought he was talented enough, but he does have an air of immaturity about him that But listen, one good thing about it, Brees Hall looked good for the Jets, and they got Dalvin Cook, so they got a
I
running
agree.
back to take some of the pressure off him that he doesn't have to win it alone. But this is going to be a big story for the Jets, and I mean everyone's telling us how great this defense is. I don't see them,
I agree.
as
Brees Hall is the key to that answer, and they were unbelievably phenomenal during that game, and their
yep,
success is going to continue high. And Brees Hall was the absolute star, and he needs to stay healthy because if he does not stay healthy, this Jets team is really done for, like
yeah.
none other levels. But he was the key and star player for that game last week.
Yeah, so out of let's just be real. Out of the whole week one, the crazy upsets, the all that kind of stuff, the Aaron Rodgers story was beaten to death.
Obviously, the
So
biggest one,
yeah,
right?
no question about it. No question.
And before we get into
So
the next
Eli, let's go ahead.
picks, I just want to add some few news stories for the NFL. Chris Jones, who we talked about a lot, has finally made a 1-year deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. That happened just a few weeks ago. J.K. Dobbins also torn his Achilles. He'll be out for the Baltimore Ravens. Nick Bosa, of course, he had a 5-year extension with the San Francisco 49ers. And the Walt Disney Company and ESPN will be doing a Toy Story broadcast for the Week 4 London game when the Jaguars take on the Falcons. So I am super excited for that. And it will be nothing like the NFL on Nickelodeon broadcast. It'll be an actual broadcast. And this past Monday's Monday night game was the most watched game. No surprise there. And the Panthers, Jason Horn has been placed on the injured reserve. And it's been a week 2 interesting battle. The Eagles win again, but have played some interesting struggle. And that is my NFL news topics recap update.
Okay, that's good. What was the first one you mentioned in that little update?
Chris Jones agrees to a 1-year
Chris
deal with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right.
Yes.
I got something to say about this because it was to me. He was holding out, and yet he was at the game, sitting in the stands, which I found to be deplorable.
Yes,
I find that to be outrageous.
And
the fact that they say he signed a 1-year contract. Basically, I'm going to say that the Kansas City Chiefs won that standoff because Chris Jones was going to make $20 million anyway. So now all of this, the final year of that deal, they negotiated, and yeah, if he gets 25 sacks or something, he'll make an extra $1 million. But he didn't really hold out and end up getting Nick Bosa type money. So I give a little bit of credit to the Chiefs, which diminishes it because if he was in the owner's box or something like that, I don't know if he was in what box he was in, but I just thought it was outrageous that he was at the game. So
I agree.
You know my feelings on these guys that they're under.
Oh, absolutely. I know those feelings. Right. I agree.
Yeah. So, okay. So this is our lock of the week segment here, right? So Eli and I are going to pick 3 games each week, and we'll recap them. We'll keep Eli. I'll keep a tally for a season long and see who's comes out on top. But I got my 3 games this week.
All right.
Game 1, Las Vegas at Buffalo. And I told you that I'm more of a believer in Buffalo than some of the Buffalo Bill fans I've been talking to be honest with you. I do think that Josh Allen has taken kind of a half a step back from the player that we expected. I don't know if that's because he's hurt or this thing with Diggs just got so so bad that he can't rely on him, that he's not going to be his go-to guy anymore. But he's got to turn this around and be the player that he was. So I'm taking that because I don't have any faith in Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think
I agree.
the Raiders are a formidable team anyway. So
Well, the
lock
Raiders
one
got
for
lucky
Jim.
because you played Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos are the Denver Broncos, and I have my pet peeves about them. So we'll get to that on my show if
Yeah.
you watch it, because I rant
Right.
about the Broncos every week.
Okay. So I'm going with Buffalo in that game. Second game, Seattle, Detroit.
All right.
Now this is not a knock on your team, but I'm
I
still
know.
I
I'm
think
expecting it.
I think Geno Smith had his career year. I don't think he's going to duplicate that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is I want to believe in Detroit. I really do. I think Dan Campbell's done a great job. I just as big a fan of Jared Goff I was when he was playing for the Rams. I think was a result of the Sean McVay thing. So I don't have a lot of faith in him, but I think they have a lot of good players around them. That this is a formidable team. So I'm taking the Lions over your Seahawks this week, and in that
No
I don't
surprise.
even know if it would be considered an upset either. And the third game is Green Bay and Atlanta. Now we kind of talked a little bit about Atlanta. They got Bijan Robinson, who is I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he's going to be the NFL Rookie of the Year. He's that talented. I watched him a lot at Texas. He's that good, and I'm holding out good hopes for Desmond Ritter. I hope he does mature into that quarterback that was drafted in the second round. And I'm as big a supporter I am of Jordan Love. I just think because Atlanta is at home, that I think they're going to take it over Green Bay. So
Really?
my three picks are Buffalo, Detroit, and Arizona. And now we get Eli's picks.
All right. Well, I had my original lock of the week was the Eagles game on Thursday night, and I was correct on that. But to get to 3 new locks, I'm going to continue off the same pattern you had. I'm going to say the Packers are going to take the victory over the Falcons. I think with the Packers, they played a phenomenal game, and I thought Atlanta got lucky when it came to Carolina, and I think Packers are the team to beat. I'm taking them to win 22-16. I'm also taking the Bills to beat the Raiders. I'm having them to win 24-21. The Bills are the better team overall. And finally, the Seahawks are going to beat the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are too hyped, and I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to win the game. Final score 28-27. And just to throw an extra one as a bonus treat, I'm taking the Cowboys over the Jets 30-22.
Okay. Boy,
That flavor.
you are loyal. You are a
I am
loyal.
loyal. You got to stay loyal. If they lose this week, then you got to say, okay, hold on one second. Other than that, those are my picks.
All right.
All right.
All right. I think Eli's betting with his heart and not his head on that one, but we'll see about it, right? So listen, before we move off, there was really something I thought was very, very cool on the Sunday night game. Probably the best highlight of the night was they showed a clip from the St. Joe's Don Bosco game the day before because now Devin McCourty is now in the studio for Sunday night football games. So they posted a picture of him and his twin brother Jason as well. So it was kind of cool to see on a nationally televised game the highlight of my alma mater. I thought it was cool. I guess you missed it, right?
I missed it. I was not really watching. I was actually at Jack's house watching he had Sunday Ticket. We were actually watching most of the games. And I got home at 8:30, 45-ish. And at that point, I was getting ready for the next day's school. I did not watch any of the Giants game just until halftime.
Okay. All right. Well, it was kind of cool to see though that they brought up St. Joe's.
That's awesome
on the NBC broadcast.
That's cool.
By the way, so that game was suspended. You and I both had games. You were doing your St. Mary's game,
right?
And I went to the St. Joe's game, and the same situation. Lightning strikes and so forth. So the games were suspended, and then they tried to finish them on Monday, which ended up St. Joe's did winning the game, but they never even finished the makeup because of another inclement weather. So
yes, St. Mary's did in fact play the game. The weather was cooperative for them. St. Mary's did lose. They were not able to be successful in those plays.
Right.
Overall, we'll hopefully get a win today. It's a tough game tonight versus Butler, and you can watch the game. Of course, I'm on the call on Surge Sports. Jack will be out; he's out sick. We, of course, we wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully he'll be
Okay,
back soon. And yeah,
good.
12:40 coverage starts. Surge Sports. Gales take on Butler.
All right, so my St. Joe's, they're playing one of our loyal listeners' alma mater, Mike Garvey's alumni of St. Anthony's from Long Island. So they're playing my St. Joe's today. So Mike, good luck today. They had a great game last year. They call it the Battle of the Bridge because it's Jersey and New York. It was a high scoring game last year, like 62 to 49 or something. So it should be a high scoring game, but St. Joe's is 3-0. They're number 2 in the county now, and things are looking pretty good right now.
Absolutely.
So good luck to you, St. Mary. So
thank you. Good luck to St. Joe's.
Thank you. Thank you. So we move on. Let's talk a little bit about Major League Baseball because we're coming down to the end of the season, and it's kind of unfortunate when you're in New York and you're either a Mets or a Yankees fan. There's really nothing to play for right now. So the Mets made a big decision. They hired David Stearns away from the Milwaukee Brewers to run this baseball operation. He's got a good track record so far, but that doesn't speak highly of the confidence that Steve Cohen may have in Billy Epler or not. So, but he's going to be the guy for the Mets going forward, and they're going to make a lot of changes because things didn't work out the way they had hoped this year. And listen, as it turns out, they got rid of Max Scherzer anyway. He's out for the season for Texas, which is a big loss for them because they're battling, in the American League West, which Seattle, Texas, and who's the third? Houston.
Yes, Houston. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think Houston's still pretty much loaded. Seattle was on such a roll, and they're kind of coming back to earth. But that battle for the wild card is something special for baseball fans, right? And in the American League East, don't look now, but the Rays, who started off this historic season on a rampage, and then they kind of leveled off, and now they're battling back, and I think they just overtook Baltimore in first place in the American League East, with the Yankees and the Boston Red Sox sitting 17 and a half games behind.
Wow.
And the Red Sox fired their director of baseball operations as well. So.
Yes, I saw that.
But look at Pete Alonso, boy. He's quietly finishing this season with a bang. He's on a power surge, and I said,
he's cleaning out his locker.
Who?
That Pete Alonso. Somebody was saying, oh no, that's Matt. Sorry, wrong sport. Wrong player. Shohei Ohtani I was talking about. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah. That means he's done, and that means he's done in Anaheim. So
okay, wrong player. I was getting confused with my players. All right.
But listen, Alonso is on he's gonna probably hit 50 home runs by the end of this season. So I mean, his average isn't good, but any discussions the Mets are having about whether to bring him back or not bring him back is absolutely silly. He's a cornerstone of that team. He's loved by the fans, and he puts up big numbers. So
I agree 100%.
He will be back. He will be back. But baseball is really getting down the stretch. It's been pretty exciting.
Spot, and it's been exciting.
Yeah, look how early the Atlanta Braves clinched the division. I mean,
right.
You're talking about a team that's loaded. The year Matt Olson and Ronald Acuna Jr. are having is just phenomenal. They seem tough to beat, but don't count out the Angels because Freddie Freeman is on there. They got Mookie Betts. They got a lot of good players in LA. So I don't see anybody else challenging them, although look at the stretch Trey Turner's been. He's kind of been quiet. He's one of the better players in the league and hasn't really done much all season. But, God, he's been on a tear. He's got 12 home runs in his past 13 games, and he made an unbelievable play at shortstop last week. So, the Phillies are they're going to be heard from. I mean, they did get to the World Series last year, so we're going to keep an eye on that. So we're coming down the stretch, and what do we got? Maybe 20 games left in the season.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Right, 20 or less.
Right.
Yeah, good stuff. But that's Texas, losing Scherzer and not having DeGrom all season. I think that's going to come back and bite them in the end, because I don't know if they have the pitching. They got the offense, but I think Houston is going to end up winning that division. But listen, both Seattle and
Houston.
Houston. Yeah, but Seattle, Houston, and Texas, they may all make the playoffs. One will win the division. The other two may still get in as well.
Right.
Right. All right. So, Eli, you have a movie recommendation for us.
We're not doing the points? Or we'll do that later?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. You're right. We're going to do our random points of interest.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, just making sure. I was like, oh, okay. We forgot the most the sponsored segment.
Okay. And of course, this is sponsored by Lynch Toyota, who I'm actually going to see Michael Lynch this weekend. And again, he's been a loyal supporter, just like Coriano Trucking for us. So thank you, Mike. And random points, couple of things.
I have a lot, so go ahead.
Okay, here's a couple. Again, this Michigan State just can't seem to get out of the news for one thing or another. They went through the whole Larry Nassar thing, and now you got Mel Tucker, who I think is the most overpaid coach in college football, and I don't think his results have done anything to warrant the contract they gave him. But now he's suspended, and I'm going to venture to say the accusations against him are not good. And it's going to end up costing him his job, just like it did Pat Fitzgerald, different circumstances. But, this is sexual harassment claims, and that's not good for Michigan State. And I think Mel Tucker has coached his last game there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I did mention, but there was also something that came up, right? This guy can't seem to stay out of the news either, this Alex Rodriguez and so forth. So, I mean, we know the whole biogenesis thing, but apparently the report leaked out that he kind of ratted on Ramirez and Ryan Braun as part of this whole, steroid situation with biogenesis and so forth. So, he could have just left these guys' names out, just focused on him, but he ended up there were more guys actually, and probably that we even know about today. But that was something I thought was interesting to put Alex Rodriguez back in the news for. I mean, I think we all suspected Manny Ramirez and Ryan Braun. He was suspended as well, but I thought that was interesting. And here's another random point, because I know you didn't get to see him really play, but there's a Barry Sanders documentary coming out in November. And I bring that up because Barry Sanders was one of the greatest running backs in NFL history. There's no question about that. He was also one of the most kind, generous, and classful players ever to play in the game. And we hadn't seen something like him retiring from the Detroit Lions. He was still in his prime. He was only 1,400 yards away from breaking Walter Payton's all-time rushing record, and he retired. And I think it's going to come back down to the way that they didn't build the cast around Barry Sanders, and he became frustrated with the Detroit Lions. He didn't have this free agency thing that you could fall back on, but I can't wait to see this, because if you watch highlights of him, there's some of the best highlights. They're up there with some Walter Payton runs and Gale Sayers runs. Yeah. And like I said, he's such a class act, and I've always been a fan of his. And can't wait to watch that documentary. Can't wait.
Yeah. And I'm going to get
All
into
right,
some of
go
my
ahead.
random points. I have a few of them today. The New York City Council approves a new 5-year permit for the Madison Square Garden Stadium and Arena. There were talks about trying to move it and put Penn Station back, but nope, they agreed to another 5-year permit. The New Jersey Devils
Okay.
trade Thomas Tuna Tatar to the Colorado Avalanche, and camp for the NHL has officially kicked off. I'm going to miss Tartar. I loved him a lot. Really upset that he's gone. And the Arizona Cardinals, Andrew Lard has retired from the NHL with 550 points and 1,001 games played. And the WNBA playoffs have officially kicked off on ESPN and ABC, and the Liberty takes the win yesterday. The game started on ESPN2. And the NBA Board of Governors have approved new resting period policies. Full details are available on the ESPN website. And finally, a Golden Knights fan, Michael Bronazzo, passed away back in 2021. And before he passed, he told his wife Connie that if the Vegas Golden Knights ever won the Stanley Cup, he wished it to have it put by his grave, and the Stanley Cup made it to his gravesite. And that was a special moment for him and his family. Unfortunately, he'll be watching, I'm sure, from heaven. So,
Oh, that's
yeah,
pretty good, actually.
that's an interesting story that they announced the other day. So, yeah,
It was. Good random points right there, right?
all right. Yeah.
You know, the whole thing with the Madison Square Garden, hey, they're never going to move that. They're going to do
I
a
agree.
major renovation because it does need some
Improvement.
work. I mean, they actually redid the garden itself, the arena, but it's also a train hub for commuters and people coming in
It's the
from.
busiest station in the world
Yeah,
with
it is.
Amtrak, NJ Transit, and Long Island Railroad.
And it just makes sense to keep it right where it is.
Yep.
Because it's been there forever. It's great. Good random points, Eli. All right, so listen. So you got a sports movie recommendation, and I have one too. So you get a double dose from us this week.
Double
So I'll
header
give
from
Eli.
us. Special week.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I chose the Mighty Ducks series. Of course, it's the iconic movie of hockey, and it's been around since 1992. Started by, of course, the Walt Disney Company. They've had 3 movies plus a new series called the Mighty Ducks Game Changers, which now airs on Disney Plus. It's a great movie. It's about hockey, and it shows that regardless of which team you're on, you'll be able to play hockey, and it'll be a upset of it'll be improving as you'll be starting off wrong but ending at the right foot. And it's such an iconic movie. It's one of my favorite sports movies of all time, Mighty Ducks, and it features a lot of people. And if you're a fan of Saturday Night Live, Kenan Thompson participated in Mighty Ducks 2 and watched the new Mighty Ducks Game Changers. I'm not sure if it's still available on Disney Plus, but it's by far an amazing series that happened. The remake.
Excellent. By the way, listen, I don't know if I saw the sequels, but I know I saw the original with Emilio Estevez, right?
Yes, he still is in it too. And he was in
So-
the first season of the Game Changers, and then the final season he did not return, and that was all. Yeah.
And how about this though? That movie spawned the name of an NHL team because when they originally came in, it was the
Right.
Anaheim Mighty Ducks. Right?
Yeah. Disney
That's
had
good
no say in it, too.
recommendation. I got one too, and it's a basketball movie, and I don't know if you've seen it, but I know some of our loyal listeners have certainly seen it. It was one of Steve's favorite movies was Hoosiers with Gene
Okay.
Hackman, and it was literally about Indiana basketball. And in Indiana, basketball is everything. And it was
Right.
just a great story. Dennis Hopper was in it, so there was a little not only the basketball thing, but also some of the character that Dennis Hopper played. He played an alcoholic, and his son was on the team, but he ended up turning himself around. It's a great movie. One of the all-time.
I'm
best
sure my
basketball-
sister saw the movie. She's a huge
Yeah.
basketball fanatic, so.
Well, you check that out because if she hasn't seen Hoosiers, she's missing something. So, and I could picture it being exactly what you expect. Like when Larry Bird was from French Lick, Indiana, and it's kind of very similar to that. So that was pretty cool. Great
That's
movie.
awesome.
So we gave a double recommendation this week, and I don't think Eli took care of his homework assignment. He was supposed to watch Rudy, which we talked about.
Failed on the assignment, but I'm going to get it done. It's going to get done sometime either next week, if not this week coming up. I will make sure it gets done.
Excellent. Excellent. So, hey, we got a good week of our notable passings, meaning very few. And
Yes,
I only have one that I wanted to
I
bring
agree. I
up.
only have one, and
And
we had it.
it was Mike Williams, former Syracuse player and from the Buffalo area, and he had a pretty good career with Tampa Bay, and he also played with Buffalo. Strange thing, it was actually a tragic thing, construction accident, and it looked like at first he was going to make it, and he ended up succumbing at the age of 36 years old. And but he had a couple of really good seasons when he came out of Syracuse. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Thoughts and
that's
prayers as always.
yeah, that's really all we can cover this week from a notable passings. Which any week the number's low is a good week for us because that
Absolutely.
means we didn't lose some type of figure. Obviously, when you think about any day now we could lose, be mentioning former President Jimmy Carter, who's been in terrible shape for a long time, but
Right.
he's still fighting, he's hanging in there. But I think that's coming down the road too. So unfortunately, that's the way things go. So Eli, it's been a great week,
Well,
and
you forgot your photo.
there's my photo. See, that's my little Princess Hayden for on her 6th birthday, and that's my little buddy Hudson, my newest grandchild. So I'm missing my oldest grandson in this picture because he's always off doing something. He's playing both baseball and football this season
Good for
and this
him.
fall. But thank you
Good
for
for him. That's all I
posting
gotta
that.
say. No
Yeah,
problem.
these are grandkids or something special, and like I said, I can't wait to. I'll get a clip of Logan and his football game one of these weeks because he's really turning into quite an athlete, and I'm very very proud of him.
Awesome to hear.
So listen, every week now is going to be action packed, right? We're out of that
Action
lull,
packed.
right?
We're out of the
Right?
low.
Yeah.
We're into the high as we get ready for week 2 in the NFL. Coming up towards week 3, the beginning stretch of hockey and the beginning stretch of basketball. It's all coming together. The puzzle's finally getting the pieces together. It's
Yes, it
exciting.
is.
We're getting crazy. We're getting ready.
And listen, so Eli, you've done a great job. You've been posting stuff on Instagram, and you've really been doing a great job with the production side and the social media. So again, we would love for you guys to comment on whatever platform you're listening, whether it be YouTube or Facebook or Surge Sports, whatever. Or you could always send, like I said, send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com, and we'll certainly address your email on the air the following week. So
Absolutely.
great job. Great job. So thanks everybody for joining us again.
Yes.
Thanks for the support for Steve. And like I said, I was at the St. Joe's game, and a lot of people were just asking me about how he's doing and so forth. So that's a reflection on him. So
Absolutely.
everybody will be back here. Now, Eli, we're back at 10 next week.
Yes, 10 o'clock next week because the game's at 7.
Okay.
And
So
then just the last weekend of September, that'll be 9 o'clock because we have a 1 o'clock game. So
okay, but we're putting enough notice out there that people will know.
Yes, we will
ahead of
make
time.
sure and advertise well. Yes.
Great. Okay.
Awesome. Well, have a good weekend, everyone.
You too, Eli. Have a great week, and hope pulling for your Seahawks. Actually, I'm not because I took Detroit.
Oh well.
Anyway, good luck at your game today. I know
Yes.
it's St. Mary's Butler, and good luck with that. And we will see you next week, same time. No, 10 o'clock next week.
10 o'clock next week. All right.